Anyway, I have stage managed here at the barn officially twice. I've been backstage many shows, like I can't even count. I learned how to stage manage back in college, which was just a few years ago. So I kind of have more of it's just kind of learning on the fly. But the first thing we're going to do, and I'm just going to bring my notes with me, we're going to go take a tour. So you guys can kind of see backstage, and I'll talk a little bit probably on the tour, and then just think of questions, and then I'll go through my notes, and you guys can ask questions, and we'll go from there. How much room we have backstage on a given production is going to basically depend on what our set is. I've been in shows where we just have a run, truly a run carpet between backstage because our set is deep. But it looks like they've started to set prop tables. As a stage manager, when I stage manage, I worked with our props person, but I will typically set the prop table because you read the script multiple times as a stage manager. So I'll typically set my own prop table. Sometimes the prop person will help, but I set the prop table because I know what has to go on in what order. And I'll show you a list of, not the last show, but 2 shows ago that I did, and props can be very essential. But depending on the show, a table could be set here. It looks like they have. The last show was in Toyland. We had 2 of us change backstage, and we had more like we had a flat that we changed behind. I've also been in shows where there was so many of us quick changes. We had we were lined up. We just had a station because we had like 30 seconds, like off, change, back on in 30 seconds. That was Big Fish. So we all just came in. If you didn't want to watch people changing their clothes, you reason to not be there. So most people have undergarments on that you're covered. But anyway, yes. Okay, here is our green room. Green room. So this is where the cast can hang out prior to show, before show. Most shows do have call time. The stage manager is responsible of making sure your cast is here. If your cast is not here at call time, that might mean you need to text, call, figure out why they are not here. Male dressing room, female dressing room. There's a room that connects in between. Do you guys want to see where we have makeup? Here is one of our rehearsal rooms. This one's nice. This one's great for dancing. It's not the best dance floor, but we have mirrors, so it's a great spot for choreography. Behind that curtain are our shoes, so basically a rehearsal hall. So the next show can start rehearsing in here, or they'll use it for choreography. So,
and music sometimes.
And music, yeah, music. So it's a nice rehearsal room.
Mm-hmm.
So as stage manager, especially here at the barn, you will find yourself, the director will be like, well, I want a couch. And then you'll go down into this lovely furniture room and you'll look for a couch. Or you go to their house and you take the couch out of their house or their dining room table because they don't like the choices here. But this is furniture room against the far wall. There's our doors that you see up on set, doors, windows, that kind of thing. This is nicely organized now. So you can go in, it's kind of segmented, but then some actors strike, everybody in the crew has to strike, take everything down, put things away, and sometimes doesn't go as planned. But behind there, we won't crawl back there, but there's picture storage, there's suitcases, Christmas decorations on these. Before the remodel of the barn, these were stairs. Like this was, you went up to the front.
This is the old J.C. Penney's building.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes. So on the stairs, the former stairs, that's our greenery. That's or the jukebox. Yeah, we also have like some kitchen appliances that are in there that have been used on set. Washer, dryer, because sometimes that's called. In Odd Couple, the kitchen needed to be visible because it added to certain parts in the script. He has to get his burnt meat out of the oven. So it was added to the ambiance to actually have a oven that he could open up and take out his burnt meat and it smoked because it was cool. So in the last less than a year, this got all reorganized and sorted through and recategorized and things like that. But I talked about our stage manager kit here. We'll have things like tape, like glow tape, so you can see in the dark, because sometimes you have to put some glow tape on the edges of stairs or the side of a flat, or wires. Spike tape, so if you're bringing certain furniture on and off the stage, your stage crew or you yourself knows where to put it. Duct tape, so scissors, X-Acto knife, safety pins, first aid supplies, and if you notice you're short or need something extra, you can work with the office and they'll make sure you got Band-Aids in there. Rubber gloves are good in there. Typically in the refrigerator in the concession stand, they'll have ice available or ice packs. I can't tell you, I think every show I've used some form of ice. Like a basic tool, screwdriver, hammer. If you need something more serious, you're probably going to involve your set builder to come back and fix it. So things like that. So I think that one of the biggest things as a stage manager, if you're asked to stage manager, want a stage manager, even before you sign, there's a contract you'll sign here at the barn. I would sit down with the director, talk to the director, find out their expectations. Like, I want you to be in charge of, these things. Make sure you're comfortable with that before you sign. Make sure you have good communication with that director and think you could work with that director, because you're going to spend 6 to 8 to 10, maybe even longer, with that person doing things, not really for them, but they're going to say, hey, I need this. There's typically, I found that with directors. So I think meet with them first, have communications, find out their expectations before you decide whether or not you want to do it as the stage manager, because communication, like I said, is important. I have found here that the directors I've worked with, on your contract at the barn, you agree to be at every rehearsal. Now, if you have a conflict, you just tell your director, you tell the office, so they know maybe the night you're not there. You might have somebody else take care of your duties that night if it's necessary. Just need to communicate, because things come up. But you're at every rehearsal. I brought a script here, but I get the script early. I take a photocopy. I have it do this way so I can flip at rehearsals. I always have done the stage notes, the blocking notes. So the director might have things written down, but they're watching. You're just furiously making stage notes in your book. And then during rehearsal, and this is how I handle it, if somebody's different, I'll be like, okay, they are supposed to be, do you want it the way they're doing it? Because things change, and that's why it's always pencil. Things might change, but I'll whisper or communicate quietly to the director to see if he or she wants to stop practice, change it, oh, we got to back up, that kind of thing. I personally do not call out. It's not my show at that point in time. I will not call up a cast member and say, unless they are totally, like if they're in the wrong spot for the next person coming in, I'll be like, that's the director's position to stop practice, to rearrange them like that. But, and for instance, I will highlight various things in the script. Stage direction, in this one, I did sound cues in orange because I knew I was going to be asked for those sound cues, so I was ready to go. And then I passed it off. I have props in yellow in this script, certain props that I need to have set in certain places or for where the actor was expecting them to be. Certain actors are very particular. You will learn in the process of rehearsals how to handle most of the people in your show. And sometimes you just have to do what works. Like, I was in a show backstage, and it required me shuffling their shoes back and forth backstage. And I was going to fight it, and then I just thought it makes no sense to fight it. So, you might have an idea where that was. So I think, yeah, communicate with your director, get your script early, mark it up how you seem fit, stage directions write in pencil because they will change. You're also responsible for, in most cases, taking rehearsal notes. So it can be formal, and I can pass this around. It can be formal, or it can be on your, I typically don't do it on my phone because it's just because I'm putting notes in here, but you can put notes on your phone. You can take notes how you want. This is pretty detailed. Some shows you just don't necessarily, or you might need this the first week, and then some of the notes on here you don't have anymore, but your director might say, oh, we need to make sure we get character Sally 3 hats, and they need to be, and the director will tell you in the middle of rehearsal, so you can just jot it down, because then later you can get to the costumer, or you can run down and get the 3 hats. Or it just helps, it helps me have a place to write down those notes during rehearsal. In most shows, I've had to communicate multiple ways. Sometimes it's Facebook, email, texting, phone calls. I've had a cast where only one emailed, only one took text messages, only one took a phone call, only one looked at Facebook. So I was putting rehearsal notes, notices up 4 different ways. So it's a little excessive, but sometimes you have to. And then if you have kids in the show, typically you're reaching out to the parent and not the minor. So that's kind of just a normal, you'll have the parent contact, but then it's not your worry if the child doesn't get the message because you told the parent. Typically when you're writing your notes in your script, you can abbreviate, so like downstage, so that's close to the audience is downstage. So down center, you could put DC, stage left, you could go left center, left front, left back. You can come up with your own abbreviations. You can use an X for if the actor is crossing, you could go X, sofa to chair, or abbreviate sofa, SO, chair, CH. Just you kind of figure out, so you're not writing out Sam walked from, because then your actors are 4 steps ahead and you've missed some blocking notes. So some of that just takes practice. And if you miss something, you can say, can we stop a minute? I missed a direction. So
Say, what is blocking? What do you mean by blocking?
blocking is the director will map out or block, set what the actors are doing on stage during the scene. So they call it blocking. There's probably history behind why it's called blocking, but you're mapping out how the actors are moving, where they're sitting, where they're coming in, like the doors that are coming in, which is an important thing if you have a farce that has 5 or 6 doors, or a lot of entrances, because you will have, and that changes, you will have people, where do I come in? Do I come in down left or up or right? So it's very important in some shows to keep track of entrance points. And like I said, farces have a tendency to have a lot of doors. So then you give yourself a name, or you figure out how to keep track of those names to remind them. And you may have to set props outside of those doors on the backstage, so they come in with their props. It's your job, typically, to keep track of rehearsal notes, keep track of what, what's going to happen the next night. So you'll tell your cast when they leave Tuesday night that the next night what the pages are, maybe if it's a musical, what song they're working on. If that cast that needs to be there Wednesday is not there on Tuesday, you need to remind who's coming on Wednesday. Typically, I'll send the same communication, even if it has to be 4 different ways, out to everybody, because if you have lots of different parts, they can read, as long as you have bulleted by part or cast member name, if they can figure out where to go, it can go out to everybody, even if it doesn't pertain to everybody. So most of those rehearsal notes are for you, so you know to either get props, do things the director has asked you, and so you know how to communicate to your cast, like what's going, because sometimes when you're here, rehearsal might go amazingly well, or the director goes, I want to rerun these pages tonight, so then the next night rehearsal might change. I've been in shows where you get a monthly calendar, but then it changes daily or weekly. So I will put in calendars, and the director usually sets this, but you may or may not help the director set calendars. So I'll have the calendars for the show in here. I will have, here's a list of the production staff. I will have their contact information. I will put notes, like I even have, this was Odd Couple and we needed to have the room smoke. We need to, so I have a note, talk to Eric about how we're gonna do that. We did atmosphere in the can. But I put notes on here by the different people if I need to talk to set. I have our cast list with their contact information. Miscellaneous production people. I have my script, which I mark in different ways. So I find that, put in here what you need. Like I said, your director might ask you to keep track of props, sound cues, that kind of thing. I kind of do that, just so it's asked for, or I can go to the prop person and say, I know this is coming, did you get a prop list? Here's the start, but read the script. Backstage, as a stage manager, you're responsible for setting the stage for example, each act, each scene. You might have furniture coming on and off, you might have moving parts coming on, you know, parts, props that are coming on and off. Some shows, you might not need a detailed list. So the last show I was in, I didn't actually have notes on the wall. I had my script backstage with certain things. It was me and one other person. Anybody could step in, follow the script backstage, and get done what needed to be done backstage. This is Odd Couple. I had 6 pages. So this was, so I had top of the act, what I had to do pre-show, which I would preset at the end of the previous show. And then we had TV playing on show, so I have notes of starting the DVR, doing my atmosphere in a can. It was me and 2 other people backstage, so I assigned our roles to each one. I like sleeves, because if I have to make a change, and I know it's in pencil, but then I can make changes easily, I stick the sleeves on the wall, but then changes can be made easily, I can slip it out. That's what works for me. You can do what you think works for you. So I had 6 pages for Odd Couple, because it was that kind of show. And this does not include, Odd Couple happens to have a lot of food. If you have a show with food, nightly, at the end of the show, you're rechecking before the start of the show that none of your food is spoiled. Have a backup plan if it's all of a sudden went bad overnight. Odd Couple, I get here really early. I had notes. We commandeer a cabinet in the concession stand because we had that much food. Could use the refrigerator, the freezer, but I had a list of what had to be made for each show. So if I wasn't there that night, anybody could get the food ready for the show. So, like I said, some shows, and this had a cast of about 8. And how I did the prop table there, I had a prop table stage left, and I had it marked off, labeled with what went into that spot, and then my end spot, because there was a lot of food going, my kitchen was over there. So my end spot was empty, and I moved the next food tray or the next whatever that had to go on. Glass, set of dishes, we had a coffee, we had all kinds of things. So I'd move it to that blank spot, and then I knew that was going out next, and then things like that. So organize the way it works for you. Also, that's, the actors had certain things set backstage, what worked for them, what I worked with them. Okay, you need to come on with this ladle. Where do you want your ladle, for example? So some people, like, I go looking for the props every night, other people. And then on my stage right prop table, I split the table up into, for each actor / character. So they could come off stage, dump it in their spot, either for them to move at a later time or me to go, I need to move that to set it for the next night, or I need to move it so it's where they need it next. But they each had a spot. So that's what worked for that show. You kind of have to see what's going to work for each show. You might need to have props, like I said, stashed behind the stage, but you're going to work with, you know, I typically like to set all that stuff. Yes, Matt?
You also enlisted the cast to help with
Yes,
changes on.
I do, yes. Because quite often you'll need, if you need to set a vacuum, and you need to set a food tray, and you need to set or clean up spaghetti, you have to assign your crew to help take care of certain things, well-oiled machine, and you need to maybe say, you need to remember to bring on this, and you just remind them, you get it done. And some shows you run what is called cue to cue, so you're not running the scenes in between, but you're running light, sound, and any scene changes that correspond with, so lights down, you know, if there's music in that scene, you know, you're running those cues, because you don't want scene changes that take forever. You want it to be quick. I know one show here, the director was demanding something like a 20-second scene change. Sometimes that's not possible because you need safety. But you want it to be quick, and you want to be in and out, and you wear black as much as you can, so people can see you, but you're trying to be dark and,
They're typically very green out.
yes. Yes. So,
Across the stage.
yes. So if you have a lot of cues and you want to practice cue to cue, that's a great thing to do. A lot of times with musicals you might do it, just because you might be taking off a big, we did that with Mary Poppins because, for instance, a toy box was coming off. We were so tight backstage, like we had to practice, okay, toy box is coming off, but this has to pull out so the toy box can get back in and stowed, and so we practiced how to do that. So yeah, you might help with costume changes, you might help with, like you said, running props, you might help with, oh no, I popped a button in my pants, and then you're running down to the costume room and getting a new pair of pants. We split pants in Mary Poppins. So just, you have to be ready, work on your toes, you have to have good organization, at least organization for you. Great communication with your director. Also a big thing is if you think you might want to try stage managing, I would be backstage, like be stage crew, 1 or 2 shows. So to make sure that, oh, I like being back here, because you have to be quiet. We do have headsets. We didn't go up to the sound booth, but there are headsets. Typically the stage manager's on a headset. She can be in communication with the booth. Downstairs in our green room, we have a speaker so they can hear what's going on stage. But you might be running up and down looking for lost cast members, especially if there's kids in the show. Maybe try a small show first, then a big show, or be an assistant. We don't necessarily have assistant stage manager, but sometimes we have 2, or we have a main one and a secondary. Try that first before jumping right, in my opinion, jumping right to being in charge.
You talked about a stage crew. Who decides how many?
Your stage manager will arrange, in my shows, I'll ask like people to be backstage if I need it. I have, the last couple of shows, like my prop person wanted to be involved a little more, so she helped me backstage. And then in Odd Couple, one of the wives of one of the members of the cast, she goes, oh, I'd love to be a little more involved, so she helped. The barn might say, hey, I have a couple of volunteers that want to be backstage. You can, but you have to make sure that they're gonna work with you. Like, if that person isn't working, you as a stage manager have a right to say, I'm not sure this show is for you, or, you know, so you might require, not really require, but ask cast members if they have somebody in their family that they wanna help. You can reach out to people you know. So the office will help you, like if ran through I can't find somebody, can you help me find somebody to work backstage? So you're responsible for calling, typically I call houses open, which we open typically 30 minutes before go time. But you have to communicate with the house manager, which is a volunteer here at the barn. It's not the same person every night. I go find them early because they come, about 45 minutes before?
Yeah, about an hour.
Before.
Yep.
So I'll make sure I know who, they know I'm stage manager, I'll make sure I know who they are. Then I'll check in with them saying we're ready to open the house, or they'll come find me. We're ready to open the house, then your actors are all like not seen at that point in time. And then you'll tell your cast maybe 15-minute call time, and then you'll call places, or if you need to hold the house, or you need to hold go time because you're sitting some late arrivals or handicapped person coming out of the elevator, or, you know, so sometimes we hold because of audience, and sometimes, you know, there might be, oh wait, this happened, we need to hold backstage because for whatever reason backstage, you can't find something all of a sudden. I always double check props, sets I have before we open house. I tell my cast, check your props. Thank you. So here at the bar, it's the director, it's their vision, their thought, they're in charge. They still defer to the office, or the stage manager goes to the director first, but if I have a production question, I can go right to Ashley. Maybe the operation manager, like the stage manager, the director might say, hey, get me my budget numbers. So then I would go to the operation manager, say, hey, what is the budget for props, costume, this? And that's just kind of a favor to the director. So the director starts first production meeting through just prior to opening night. And then some directors do it officially, but once the show opens, the director is technically done, and it's now the stage manager's show, but it's not like the stage manager is not to change things. They are to present the show or help the show be presented in the director's vision, what was set, what was determined. Then once opening night hits, it's the stage manager's responsibility for that show to happen in the director's vision.
Does that mean the director isn't involved at all once the show?
It depends on the show. I've been in shows, I've stage managed where the director is pretty much here every night because they enjoy watching the show, so they watch the show. But I've been in shows where the last time I saw the director was at preview or sponsor night. So that's typically 1 or 2 nights before you open, and I didn't see that director until strike. So I've had a director like hands off, I've had a director kind of in the middle, and then I have had some directors where they hang out like down in the green room. Like they watch the show maybe once or twice, but they're here every night, checking in on the cast, hanging out in the green room, seeing how people are. And then I've had directors that seriously said to the stage manager, here, at the barn, and this is at the barn. Every theater, if you go to a different theater, they're gonna probably have different policies, different agreements. Production staff who signs a contract, you're agreeing to do certain things. Here at the barn, we're volunteer, it's a nonprofit. So everybody in production and cast, you're required to help with strike, which means taking down the set, organizing the costumes, how the costumer wants it done. We now have a washer and dryer here, so that's very nice. The costumer does not have to take the stinky clothes home. And then props, like the props person will be here and say, okay, I need help putting in the prop room, or I just want you to bring it down outside the prop room. So and then cleaning, responsible for cleaning, like sweeping the stage once the set's down and cleaning bathrooms, green room, things downstairs. So it's community theater, you're signing even as an actor or a crew person that you're gonna help from beginning to end.